Hey everyone, hope everyone's staying sound and safe. We are here with another national health program, that is the Integrated Disease Surveillance Program. This, unlike the other national health programs, does not target on a specific disease and the side headings change. This targets on a collection of group of diseases, and this is more relatable to the current situation, that is the pandemic we have right now, and you'll see why. So, Integrated Disease Surveillance Program, the main aim is to detect the early warning signals of an impending outbreak and initiate an effective response in a timely manner. So, it basically means that it will detect an outbreak that is about to come and will tell us what preventive measures we need to take to prevent it from occurring, right? So, that's the main aim of the IDSP. So I'll be relating more to the current situation right now, that is the COVID pandemic. So Integrated Disease Surveillance Program also provides essential data to monitor the ongoing DCP, that is the ongoing disease control program, and help us allocate the health resources more effectively where they are more necessary. So that's where we'll target them. So it was initially the IDSP was started in November 2004. So under this program, what is done? So the data on epidemic prone diseases are collected from centers like sub-centers, PHCs, CHCs and hospitals like government and private. So data is connected and analyzed, right? So how is this data collected and who collects this data? So it is collected by the health workers, the ASHAs, the ANMs, and the male health workers. So it's collected based on this SPL format. It's kind of rhyming with IPL, right? So it's easy to remember. So SPL, that is the syndromic, probable, and the laboratory format. So what is syndromic? So here the diagnosis is mainly based on the clinical pattern of the paramedical personnel or the practitioner. Whereas probable is based on typical history and clinical examination by the medical officer, whereas laboratory is confirmed by laboratory investigations and clinical diagnosis by medical officer. So for easy understanding, let's say we have COVID. So if you have all the symptoms, you have a clinical pattern, like say cold, fever, malaise, sore throat, anosmia, everything. So you come under syndromic category. Let's say you're symptomatic or mildly or you're asymptomatic and you get a positive result, so you will be confirmed as a laboratory case. So probable could be you have one or two symptoms not confirmed, so you will be in a probable case, like still in dilemma, right? So this data that is collected is sent mainly through the emails and portals, right? And then it's analyzed by the state surveillance unit and the district surveillance unit. Then they draw this disease trends, so to analyze the disease situation in the place. So if at all there is a rising trend or there is rapid increase in the cases in that particular place, we send a rapid response team. And what does this rapid response team do? It diagnoses and controls the outbreak. So it takes up the necessary preventive measures to control the outbreak. So this rapid response team mainly consists of an epidemiologist, a clinician, a microbiologist, and other specialists that are related to the disease that the investigation is ongoing on, right? So this is about it. So as we know, we're discussing about IDSP, right? So the Integrated Disease Surveillance Program. So let's break it down and understand. So surveillance. So what is surveillance? You know that it's continuous evaluation, analyzing, and interpretation of the data that we have collected in health programs or on census. The data that we are collecting, we are continuously evaluating it, right, and analyzing. So surveillance here in this program is needed for recognition of cases and cluster of cases, for introducing interventions to prevent transmission, to decrease the morbidity and mortality due to that disease, and assess the public impact of health events. So how much, let's say COVID, how much it's affecting the education system, the economic, it's disturbing everything. So what is the public impact of the health events, and it is to also measure and determine the trends, if it's a rising trend or declining one, a plateau phase, what it is. Then need for public health intervention and resource allocation. To right now we have this oxygen deprivation, so allocating more oxygen cylinders where there is increased burden, like states like Delhi and Kolkata, like that. So, and then also monitoring effectiveness of the preventive and control measures. The preventive measures that we have taken right now, are they enough? Are they suffice to control the rising trends? And also to identify the high risk groups for target intervention. So we identify the which group is at high risk and we intervene there. So next, the last one is to develop a hypothesis about risk factor and causative agent, so it's easier to identify and treatment. So the important information that we are collecting in IDSP is the answers to these questions. That is, who are getting the disease and how many are getting the disease and where did they get the disease from and why is that person getting the disease? Are they predisposed or they immunocompromised? And what needs to be done as a public health response to control this disease? So, and in IDSP, the first word is integration. So in this IDSP, we have 5 integration approaches. First integration is sharing all the information that we have collected from surveillance in disease control programs. The second one is partnership with the health and non-health sectors, that is integrating all the sectors. Then including not only communicable but also non-communicable diseases in the surveillance system. Then there must be an effective partnership with NGOs and private sector. The last integration approach is bringing all the academic and the medical colleges in primary public health activity of disease control and surveillance, right? So this is about integration part. So we've done about surveillance, why there needs to be surveillance, the importance of it, and the integration approaches. Let's see what are the components of surveillance now. So this can be easily remembered by the mnemonic COCO Cafe. So the components are collection of data, after collection, compilation of data. So we're done with COCO. The C is negligent. Then we have the analysis and interpretation, followed by follow-up and action, then the feedback. So these are the components of surveillance. So when we are collecting the data, we said that we are collecting the data based on the SPL format. So here the paramedical staff undertake the disease. They collect this data based on these broad categories of presentation. So these are the 6 categories that they take into when they're questioning it and categorizing it in the form of SPL format, right? So what are the 6 syndromes that are under surveillance? We have fever. So under fever, we have different criteria like fever with less than 7 days without localizing signs, fever with rash, fever with altered sensorium and convulsions, then fever with bleeding from skin and mucous membranes, then fever more than 7 days with or without localizing signs. So all of this will cover diseases like malaria, typhoid, Japanese encephalitis, dengue and measles. Then we have the second syndrome with cough more than 3 weeks. So that takes into consideration the TB, the tuberculosis. Then acute flaccid paralysis, that takes into polio. And then we have diarrhea, ruling out cholera. Then we have jaundice, which could be due to hepatitis, leptospirosis, malaria, yellow fever. Then unusual events causing death and hospitalization, like diseases like anthrax, plague, emerging pandemics. So all of this come under unusual syndromes. So these are the 6 broad categories under which we investigate the patients or the individuals under risk. So what are the core conditions of surveillance? So we have 4 different types of surveillance, namely the regular surveillance, the sentinel surveillance, regular periodic surveys, and the additional state priorities. So first, moving on to regular surveillance. So regular surveillance is done for all these vector-borne diseases like malaria, waterborne diseases like diarrheal disease like cholera and typhoid, then respiratory diseases like TB, vaccine preventable diseases like measles, then other conditions like road traffic accidents, and unusual clinical syndromes like respiratory distress, hemorrhagic fevers, and all the undiagnosed conditions. So for all of this, we need a regular surveillance, right? So to rule out the cases and an outbreak. Then we have sentinel surveillance. So this is to find out all those hidden cases that are not noted. So in sentinel surveillance, we do surveillance of all the sexually transmitted diseases and bloodborne infections like HIV, HBV, the hepatitis B and C virus. Other conditions that have sentinel surveillance are the water quality monitoring and the air quality index. This is mostly in urban areas, right? So this is about sentinel surveillance. Then we have regular periodic surveys, that is for the non-communicable disease risk factors. So we know that non-communicable diseases are persistent, so for them we need regular periodic surveys. So under this we do anthropometry measures, physical activity, the rate of physical activity, blood pressure, the tobacco consumption rates. So all of that comes under the regular periodic surveys. Then moving on to the additional state priorities. So in this, each state is allocated, can take 5 additional conditions that it can survey on. So it could be endemic conditions in that state, high risk conditions in those states. So it depends upon the state, right? So these are the core conditions of surveillance, 4 different types of surveillance. Okay, so we've almost come to the end of the video, the IDSP, but before that, I would like to discuss about outbreak, because IDSP is all about finding out the risk of an outbreak even before it occurs, right? And taking out needed measures. So what is an outbreak? It's sudden increase in occurrence of a disease in particular place and time, right? So this is the definition of outbreak. And what are the different warning signals of an outbreak? So in an outbreak, you can see clustering of cases and deaths in time. Suppose, let's say the corona outbreak, we had sudden cases and deaths in China and initially. So there's sudden increase in the number of cases and deaths, like we have the second wave right now, and even a single case of measles, acute flaccid paralysis, cholera, dengue, and Japanese life. So this is another warning signal, because all of these are deadly communicable diseases. Then acute febrile illness without unknown etiology, occurrence of 2 or more epidemiological linked cases of meningitis and measles, unusual isolate, shifting in age of distribution of cases, the sudden shift in cases, right? Then sudden increase in high vector density. So this means there'll be a vector-borne disease outbreak, and natural disasters. So all of these are warning signals. So why natural disasters? So it's said that in earthquake, let's say tsunami, so everything's contaminated, there's more risk of diarrheal outbreaks because there's more contamination and everything's so haywire, all of that. So we're done with the outbreak. So now we have collected the data, but where are we going to report it? So where to report? I said in the beginning that we collect data from CHCs and the sub-centers and everything. So that's where we report it also. So in rural areas, in public health sector, we report it in the community health centers and the district health hospitals. Whereas in private sector, we report it in the Sentinel private practitioner, their hospitals and the Sentinel hospitals. And in urban, we report it in urban hospitals, the medical college hospitals, the ESA and the railway institutions. And in urban and private, we report it in medical college hospitals, NGO and private laboratories, and nursing homes. So this is about reporting the data. So this is about integrated disease surveillance program. And so if you want any further videos on national health programs, please do mention in the comment section below. And please do like, share and subscribe to One Stop Medicos, and please stay safe. See you there.